BMAdawg here, and welcome to the 8th edition of the Beantown Sports Pound, part of IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that sports. We got a pretty big episode tonight. We are going to go through my final mock draft with Abdul Carter joining the Patriots at 4 if we go that route. Your reigning, defending heavyweight champion Celtics are going for back-to-back as they await who wins the play-in later on. The Bruins are about to end their season, historic slump, unfortunately. And we got BU Terriers making it to the Frozen Four. How do they make out? You also got some Red Sox struggling coverage where their bats are as cold as ice, even though spring is blooming in Beantown. You also got your checking on your lax college teams and your turn up the sound. It's time for the Beantown Sports Pound. Woo! All right, welcome everybody to the 8th episode of the Beantown Sports Pound. Your dog is going to be traveling to Vegas, so that's why you got an unusual daylight start time, but thank you all for joining anyways. I'm going to start debuting a formation since we got a lot of segments to cover. We are going to go 3-3-2 tonight. You got your opener, your Celtics play-in preview since most starters didn't play. It's a perfect time to go over Hawks or Magic. Who would be the better fit? We're also going to get your ComAv lacrosse check-in for the men's and women's team. The Revs winning. We're going to end the first part of our show with that. Then we're going to get to our Patriots mock draft with Abdul Carter. 2 weeks ago, we did Travis Hunter. Last week, Will Campbell. How does our team look if we draft Will Abdul Carter? Then you got your cold slumps who main evented the back-to-back weeks, the Boston Red Sox. They are not looking so good outside of Crochet. Dave, we'll get into that later. We're checking in on our ComAv baseball, softball teams. Keep your eye out for more announcements on the night. And we're going to end with our final main eventer for hockey for a while, since men's hockey's coming to an end in New England. But we got one team that can fill the void. I'll get to that later. As you got the Bruins wrapping up tonight and BU making the Frozen Four. How do they fare out? And now we are going to check in from a word for our lovely sponsor. So don't go anywhere, folks.
IE Sports Radio fans, this show is brought to you by Planet Jerky Premium Brisket Beef Jerky. Planet Jerky is the official jerky of the 2022 California League champion Lake Elsinore Storm, Single A affiliate of the San Diego Padres. This all brisket jerky has gluten-free options, contains no MSG, no sodium nitrate, is low in sugar, and high in protein. Go to their website at planetjerky.net and follow them on Instagram at Planet Jerky. Planet Jerky, the jerky that's on a whole other planet.
Rise and shine. It's 4 a.m. The stars are still out. The sun is beneath the horizon, but it's time to punch in and go to work. The comfort of your warm-ups turns into the grinding out of your reps as the clinking and the clanking of the plates create a symphony of euphoria. There's no other feeling like it. Earn it, burn it, and take what's yours. IE Sports Radio has proudly partnered with Vital Apparel, a brand that not only fits great, but also promotes and donates to mental health research. Use our code IESR to get 15% off their comfortable and inspiring gym wear and help them on their amazing journey to support mental health. Go hard, take part in your iron therapy, and be strong. Because when your mental health is as strong as you are, there's no telling how far you'll go.
Hey there, IE Sports Radio fans. Be sure to check out our sponsor, Seal the Deal Wax Seals by Cecilia B. You just finished your very own wedding or baby shower invitations and you're looking for that extra special touch? Maybe you just wrote a letter to a relative or a friend and you want to add to their smile when they receive it. Then seal the deal with Cecilia's handmade sealing wax stamps for your invitations, letters, and gifts. You bring the deal, we'll bring the seal. You can find them on Instagram at sealthedeal_wax stamps and on Facebook, Seal the Deal Wax Seals.
For the last 10 years, IE Sports Radio has been bringing you amazing content ranging from interviewing legendary athletes, coaches, and other authorized media personnel to building tailor-made shows dedicated to all major sports cities around the country. Make sure to follow us at IE Sports Radio on X, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and YouTube to keep up with the latest in sports and with all of our shows. Also, make sure to check out our daily updated website at iesportsradio.com. At iesportsradio.com, you can see our daily show schedule and check out all of our show pages with personal bios to learn a little bit more about each of our awesome hosts. In addition to our show pages, you can catch the IE Sports Radio blog, Hall of Fame, Fans of the Month page, and our merchandise shop including t-shirts, tank tops, caps, long sleeves, hoodies, and more. For now over a decade here at IE Sports Radio, we've continued to be by the fans, for the fans, and we thank you all for your support and for making IE Sports Radio your direct feed for all that is sports.
All right, folks, thank you very much to our wonderful sponsors, Planet Jerky, the best jerky in the planet, Seal the Deal Wax Seal, Viral Apparel. Proceeds go towards Mental Health Association, which is very important, and IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all sports. Larry B in the game. There's about 30 of us, but before I get into more, we have one newest sponsor, Raw Nutrition Supplements. Get rawnutrition.com. Use promo code IESR for 10% off. And don't forget, if you want to follow me, I got two accounts. My professional account at Beantown_IESR and at BMA, all capital D, dog at X to follow for all my crazy needs. I will be posting a lot this week as I will be away on a trip. So, and if you want to support, speaking of that, we got a supporters club. we're only $5 a month. You can help not only towards me, half the proceeds go to IE Sports Radio to help 30 of us. We got national shows, including hockey, basketball, baseball, football, which we're going to do our mock draft show this Saturday. All the guys are going to do, and a wrestling show, which is very important, as I'm going to explain a little later. But anyways, thank you all for tuning in. And before we start with our opener, today is One Boston Day, the 12th year anniversary of the horrible Boston Marathon bombings near the finish line at our annual Marathon Monday at Patriots Day every year, which is not a federal holiday, but everyone in Massachusetts does have an opportunity, take the day off and go cheer on their favorite runners. Most of them donate to their charity of their choice. And we're going to have a moment of silence for a few seconds before we start with our opener to memorize all of those who died during the marathon bombing. All right. Thank you all for tuning in. It's a sad time, but I wanted to get that in. Thank you for everyone for tuning in and understanding, as it is a sad day in the Commonwealth. But it is time to get positive and start with the opener. Your opener is scheduled for one fall. And we are going to start with your reigning, defending heavyweight champions, your Boston Celtics. Yes, we are. They have gotten 60 wins in the regular season, and they broke a bunch of three-point records this year. They are on their way to possibly repeating. It is amazing what this team is able to do, because a bunch of their starters only played together like 6 times. You got Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum, Christian Porzingis, Drew Holiday, and Derek White. They only played together less than 10 times this season because a lot of the guys have gotten injured. But since they did play the Charlotte Hornets back-to-back, the NBA started a tradition that's kind of like the NFL last year, where guys play either at 1 or 3:30 that Sunday, so they can try to get the teams to have meaningful spots to play later. But the Celtics didn't have much to play for as Sunday. A lot of those guys were out, as Peyton Pritchard scored like 32 points, and he started. He prefers to get off the bench, as he's most likely going to be the NBA Sixth Man of the Year. As our potential opponents, it's not going to be the Heat or the Bulls. The NBA started a few years ago a play-in tournament. Since we're automatically the second seed, as the Cleveland, Darius Garland and Evan Mobley and Donovan Mitchell and the Cleveland Cavaliers are your number 1 seed in the NBA this year, which is okay. We'll take on anyone, anywhere, anytime. So I'm not going to panic about who they play. But we got 2 potential opponents. You got Pablo Banchero, who won Rookie of the Year a few years ago, and you got the phenom Trae Young in the Atlanta Hawks that we're going to be possibly waiting for this Sunday. That time is yet to be determined, as NBA wants to wait till the play-in to release their schedule. But let's get down to business, shall we? All right, folks. This is going to be another great playoff run, as the Celtics played the Magic early this year. And believe it or not, both these teams, we have a losing record for the year. We lost our first game versus the Magic, 108-104. We won our second game at home, 121-94. And just last week, when a lot of those guys decided to take time off and rest to avoid further injuries, we lost the last game last week, 96-76. So we're down 2-1 against the Magic in the regular season this year, which they do pretty well against us. But you got the Atlanta Hawks, who we won our first game on the road in the very beginning of the season in November, not the first few games, but in the first month, 123-93. We lost our second game at home, 100 by 1, a nail biter, 117-116, and we lost their last game at home in December, 119-115. It's been a whole calendar year since we played the Atlanta Hawks. But let's make a case that it's better to play the Magic, and then later on we'll make a case that it's better to play the Hawks. Our defensive strength, Orlando boasts one of the league's top defenses, ranking second in the league in defensive rating, 109.4. They got a lot of athleticism, a lot of big-sized guys led by players, former Rookie of the Year, Paolo Banchero, Franz Wagner, who had a really great game last week against the Celtics, and Wendell Carter Jr. could challenge our heavy offense, our three-point guys. The Magic's ability to disrupt passing lanes and protect the rim might force the Celtics into really terrible shooting nights in certain games, since it is a 7-game series, especially if our 3-point shooting falters, because they shot under 25% during one of the games in their losses to Orlando. They also have competitive against us. The Magic did win 2 out of the 3 this season with like I said earlier, in December, and we beat them in January. But Orlando's home game against the Celtics have been tough, especially last week, how they beat us by 20 points with most of the guys not playing. They do, like the Celtics, have a very, very physical defense first, which could make games grindy, especially if they find a way to overcome our 3-point. We're the best 3-point team in history. We have 3 of the 5 top 3 points made in the season in the past 10 years. So if they do that, we need Porzingis healthy, because he can drive to make a hoop. And you got Derek White and Drew Holiday being able to make plays if someone's able to double team on Tatum or Brown, which is very important. It could make everything cause more turnover issues, as you got a defensive system that means robust, and Banchero's ability to take over games where you had 33 points in a lot of games this year could make things difficult against the Celtics. But let's look at the team that they played last year in the Eastern Conference quarterfinals, which they won by 6 games, Trae Young and the Atlanta Hawks. They have a big offensive threat compared to the Orlando Magic, but they have a lot of weak defenses, which is led by Trae Young by 24.1 points a game and averages around over 10 assists a game. They are very explosive, but their defense, which is only 19th in the league, is very overcool when you got a bunch of us that are elite. Not only the starting 5 that I mentioned, but you also got Luke Cornett that can make up abilities, having triple doubles in some games the past few months. You got Peyton Pritchard, who can come off the bench and score at any time. And you got J.D. Davidson, who dominated in minor league up in Maine with the Maine Celtics getting signed to a deal. You got a lot of guys, and Nikitas Quinta's a very good rebounder. You could have those guys step up if we continue to have injuries. And Porzingis, baby, the guy loves to take it to the hoop. But Drew Holiday and Derek White could exploit Trae Young like they did last year in games we won to create mismatches, which we need. They are a very fast-paced team. I'm not saying the Magic aren't, but it's easy for the Celtics to transition and give a lot of turnovers to them. And they have a regular season struggles against the Hawks, which we all know, and they beat them by 6. It almost went to a 7th game last year. Let's not forget, in 2008, one of the greatest turnarounds of all time, when we got KG, Paul Pierce, Rajon Rondo, and Ryan Allen. 3 of them are the big 3, and Glenn Big Baby Davis. The Hawks took them to a 7th game, and that Hawks team is a million times worse than this Hawks team. So you can never know, because Trae Young's going to want some revenge, as we have quite a bit of playoff history with the Hawks, even though they changed. But they do have Dyson Daniels, who has 3 steals per game. But our offense is a lot better. Atlanta's reliance on Young and the lack of consistent rim protection make them less equipped to handle our high-powered big man offense. And we out-rebounded Atlanta even when we lost against them, but we struggle with their offensive boards because they're a make-and-break offense. If we can shut down that offense, it should be an easy 5-game series. But in my opinion, if I had to choose which one, a lot of fans would prefer to play the Hawks, even though we've had struggles, because we do have issues with the Hawks, but they feel like, since they're not a good defensive team compared to the Magic, as you know what they say, defense wins championships, as the Florida Gators made a great defense against the Houston Cougars in the national title game. So if I had to choose, I'm going to hope that we end up facing the Atlanta Hawks, because the Magic, Banchero, and Franz Wagner, they're a phenomenal young team, as Franz Wagner can get double-doubles against us. I am not worried about any of these teams, because if the Celtics do overcome Atlanta and Orlando, go watch our New York show with Ricky K, who covers all the teams. Our host of our Michigan show, Grisville, with Christian, he's a big Pistons fan living in Michigan. If we advance against one of these teams who are playing tonight, we will have to take on either the winner of the Detroit Pistons, who had an amazing turnaround with Cade Cunningham and Duran. They are one of the greatest teams right now on the rebounds, as they beat the Celtics early when the Celtics went on the road. And the New York Knicks, they're due to have some victories against us. We swept them this year, including this overtime victory where Porzingis was clutch and Jason Tatum shot a 3 to tie it up. They're going to want some revenge in Boston, New York. You know they're always fighting. I'm going to invite an open invitation, assuming the Celtics take care of business in this first round, I can either go on a national show fast break on Sunday nights with either the winner of Ricky's team, the Knicks, or Christian's team, the Detroit Pistons. They can come here. I can go over there. I love that. They did a great job recapping their first round preview yesterday with the Pistons and Knicks. As what I'm going to do, like I'm talking about them, I will try my very best to promote our 30-plus other shows and our hosts who work just as hard as I do, as we're IE Sports Radio. Not only are we covering teams like the Celtics who get plenty of press, we're going to move on and cover our ComAv colleges. As I'm not worried about this. I'm not going to overstep boundaries because you never know in the NBA nowadays because teams are a lot tougher. It's not like 10 years ago where LeBron James and whatever team he was on, the Heat, speaking of, the Lakers are the 4th seed, I believe, or the 3rd seed. The West is very tough. You got SGA and the Thunder to watch out for. And you got the playing teams that are very tough with the Mavericks, even though they lost their dominoes. Not as bad as the Suns who end up fighting their coaches. A lot of Western teams has had coaches changes, whether it's a Grizzlies or even the Nuggets. Jokic and the team, they had a tough time getting along, kind of like what the Bruins were with all year with their coaches. I can't believe they fired a coach who won an NBA title 2 years back. But let's take a look at the comment section before I move on, shall we? Terran Rodriguez writes, "Good afternoon, Brian. Have a great show." He probably hates that I'm loving the Celtics, as I understand he's a big Lakers fan. He hosts our SoCal Supreme Sports Show, and he's has a huge hit set point volleyball show. As he told me, there are volleyball teams, as we have a stacked fall coming right up. And Ralph Kalista, host of the Yinza Report with the Black and Gold. Good evening, Brian. The other Black and Gold hockey team have a great show. We'll talk about that later, Ralph, in our main event of the evening. I'll talk a little bit about Sunday's game. And speaking of the man I talked about early, Rick Keller, who hosts our New York State of Sports Show. This guy's amazing. Covers all 3 NHL teams, both Yankees and Mets. He also writes, as much as people want to see Trae Young, would rather see Orlando play Boston, of course, because the defense is a lot tougher. Taryn, of course. First, the Celtics have to get past round 1 in order to see the Knicks or Pistons. I know that. Andy wrote that the Lakers are the 3 seed. Thank you, Taryn. Well, wish you Lakers luck. It would be amazing to see them play each other again, but we have to get by our rounds before we can think ahead. And now we're going to move on. Thank you for all that took the time to comment on our opener. And we are going to move on to a topic which a couple of our teams are very dominant in the state of Massachusetts, which I feel doesn't get enough credit at all in this state. It is going to be our ComAv colleges, and it is our men's and women's ComAv check-in. All right, folks. These teams have been looking really good on the men's side, as we only have 2 of those teams. First off is the Harvard Crimson. They defeated the University of Penn 13-6, as attacker Jack Spidell had a 5-goal game, as he is top of the nation, 8th overall, and averaging 5 goals per game. He started off with an assist as Teddy Malone got the first goal of the game before Penn tied it up. But the Crimson got 4 unanswered goals with going up 5-1. That's all they needed, as they are 5th ranked in the nation. Usually Ivy League is all doesn't get as much credit for being top of the rankings, but this team has a shot to make a run, as the men's and women's lacrosse semifinals and finals are in May in Gillette Stadium. And we're going to move on to our other men's team, the Boston University Terriers. They're 8-4. The Terriers are 15 ranked coming into this game and ended losing to Lafayette 11-9 with attackers Jimmy Core and Jimmy O'Connell getting multiple goals of the game. The Terriers got their final 2 at home with Lee this Saturday and next Thursday under the lights for senior night against Colgate before playing the Patriot League tournament. Our men's teams are looking good, but speaking of looking good, this team is dominant. They're your reigning defending women's lacrosse champion. Your Boston College Lady Eagles, they're 14-1. Last week they played the North Carolina Tar Heels, but this week they play a 10th ranked team on their senior day where it was snowing at Alumni Stadium. That you would think that'd be December football weather right before a bowl game, but they defeated them on the senior day where it was snowing before they face off. They have one more game compared to all these teams as the ACC starts their tournament earlier as they travel to Syracuse to close out the regular season before the ACC tournament. These ladies are phenomenal as they outshot Virginia 42-20 with a 24-11 victory. This is like a football score, including scoring 7 in the first quarter. The senior class combined for 17 goals and 15 assists. The Lady Eagles had around 5 seniors, including the leading goal scorer, Rachel Clark, who had another 3+ goal game. But we're going to talk about some of our other teams. The Harvard Lady Crimson, 7-5. They lost to Cornell in a heartbreaker, 13-12, as they take on their arch rival Yale, who's 10-3 of the season. Caroline Malahi had a game high of 5 assists. The difference maker of this game was the third quarter. The Lady Crimson got outscored 3-0 as Callie Botchfielder had a hat trick, most of the goals of the game. And now we're going to talk about our last team, the BU Terriers. They're 7-6 of the season. They lost 20-14 to Loyola, and they have Colgate and American to close out the regular season. Elle Stevenson continued to have a great game with 5 goals and 2 assists, as Isabella Monte continued to have a 2-goal game as they were down 7-2 in the first quarter. They ended up losing as BU's going to want to get some of these divisional wins in order to try to make an impact in the tournament coming up. But before we take our last commercial break, folks, we are going to switch gears to one Patriot place. As after the break, we're going to talk about the team, the 6-time Super Bowl champion. But speaking of, we're going to talk about a team who just overcame their struggles and has won their third game, the second game of the season, is your MLS New England Revolution. Speaking of the Revolution, starting this Saturday at noontime, we got our new IESR soccer show to check out with Jess, who's one of our new, she's a journalist, and she is going to cover soccer, which is good for guys like me and people in New England who need to learn more about the great game of soccer, as we got the Boston Legacy FC starting next year in 2026. But we are going to talk about these guys, the New England Revolution, as the Revs continue their longest road trip of the season with a 1-4-1 record, looking to make an uprise as they head down to the historic Coca-Cola City, home of the longest crisp drink of Coca-Cola, as these guys will need to get caffeinated on the field like the dog does with coffee, as they come in with more games than goals all season, with 3 goals in their 6 total games, as most of these goals came from longtime captain and midfielder Charles Gill. There's a bright spot at this. The Revs got a few players back from injury, designated players like Tomas Chansale and Leo Capania. This was also the Revs' first non-Apple TV match of the season, as the game was on FS1, giving the people in Boston a chance to watch them without having to use their unused App Store cards for the holidays. Boy, was everyone who enjoyed defensive bouts in for a treat for the first 30 minutes of this game, as it was very back and forth pace, as it looked like it was going to be a 25th minute. There was a nice Atlanta goal, which looked like it was going to be a goal popped open, but a few minutes later, Miguel Acaron got a second chance, as the refs did call out earlier. There was no goal on that play. And the Revs are down a goal, or are they? The officiating ruled otherwise, as the game is still even. A little more than 6 minutes later, Charles Gill got a penalty after a trip from, you can't make this up, folks, Latte La, one of the attackers on that team, went and drilled Carlos Gill like someone just slipped on their expensive latte at Starbucks and slipped and fall. But anyways, it worked out well for the Revs, as Charles Gill got a free kick and a goal, as the Revs get their third goal of the year, and that's all they needed, as Caleb Porter got a hose and cooled off his seat for now, as his defensive formation changes gives the Revs a second win and 7 points of the season. The stats were leading the shots on that 7-4, despite the Atlanta club leading the passing percentage from 87% to 80%. A penalty is very critical in soccer, as free kicks are not often committed, as unlike the formation, the Revolution broke from their usual 4-2-3-1 formation against Atlanta, utilizing 3 center backs and pushing the outside backs higher up in the field to form a shape to 3-4-1-2, kind of like how our formation, unlike our formation, which stayed the same as last week, as we're going 3-3-2 tonight. Brian Calabreos continue to play some great defense with 90 minutes of field time, as Charles Gill is the man who single-handedly saving the Revolution season. Otherwise, they would be winless right now. They look to get their first consecutive wins of the year, as they have their first rematch of the season at home against the New York Football Club, who we lost 2-1, including one was a kick off our own defenders. And now it's almost time for a break, folks, as we are going to get into the Revolution today. As let's enjoy the first commercial break of the night.
What's up, New York? This is Ricky K coming at you at the NY State of Sports, a new show here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. Listen to me every Thursday afternoon as we bring you the latest takes on the Yankees, Mets, Jets, Giants, Knicks, Nets, Rangers, Devils, and Islanders. Plus, you get some college hoops and what's the local sports events going on in the area. It's a state that never sleeps, so why not get the opinions and sports takes that never sleep? Again, every Thursday, 2 p.m. to the NY State of Sports. We'll see you then.
Hello, sports fans. It's me, your boy Larry B, and I want to walk you through the world of sports. No, not just the mainstream major TV deal type sports, although those are important too. But let me be your guide through your journey of all sports, from college to the pros, the minors, and everything in between. Each week, we are talking sports galore with true diehards just like you from a hardcore fan's perspective that's sure to quench your thirst around leagues you may know all too well and some you may even discover here. That's right, sports fans. If you love sports of all kinds, enjoy hearing amazing sports stories, and respect all sports because you know how difficult any of them can be to play or compete in, then this is your show. Join me, your boy Larry B, on the defining moment each week here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports, and let the sports come to you.
All right, folks, thank you all for this commercial break and joining us as we're going to get into our Patriots mock draft. But before we do, we get the question you've all been waiting for. Next week, we got the Patriots draft starting and the NFL draft starting next week. But before we do, we're having our annual Saturday mock draft, the yearly annual, where you can see all our hosts, such as Larry B., our CEO of IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all sports, previewing their first round as it was being picked. They do this every year, so it's a great opportunity to watch. I will be watching one way or the other. It is going to be a great time. But next week, I am going to tell you what I think the Patriots should do. 2 weeks ago, we had a mock draft with Travis Hunter if he falls to full. Last week, LSU tackle Will Campbell. And this week, we're going to talk about Abdul Carter. But we got some Patriots news. As you know, last year, selling out the whole Gillette Stadium, Tom Brady was inducted to the Hall, as they call it, where they built the museum years ago. And you can see past Patriots artifacts. I love it. It brings goosebumps to my soul, as we got 3 nominees for their Hall of Fame this year. You got Julian Edelman, Adam Vinatieri, and Logan Mankins. That is such a tough choice. Obviously, from this list, Logan Mankins would be the odd man out because obviously he's a great lineman, kind of like what we need now in order to Drake May to have a successful career. Looks like Jaden Daniels is going to be just like the guys Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes, Lamar Jackson, and all of them. Jalen Hurts, for example, their O-line's phenomenal. As we got Logan Mankins would be the odd man out as he won a few Super Bowls. He did a great job guarding Brady and every running back we've had, whether it's Stephen Ridley, LeGarrette Blount, guys that wouldn't have made other teams. He helped our rushing and passing game excel. That shouldn't go unnoticed. But between Julian Edelman and Adam Vinatieri, if you talk to someone who was born, who was a lot younger than me, they're probably going to say Julian Edelman. And every right so. He made a great catch in the Super Bowl where he came back 28-3. I don't think March 28th is a good day to celebrate in Georgia, but it is for us. A great catch underneath through his fingertips. And he made a play against the Baltimore Ravens in a divisional round where Tom Brady threw to him, and he threw a pass to Danny Amendola because he used to be a quarterback from Kent State. He actually made the Patriots roster as not a receiver, but a special teamers, and he turned out to be one of our best Patriots receivers of all time, whether it's Randy Moss, Troy Brown. Edelman is definitely up there. But we wouldn't be talking about and getting a lot of teams very angry at us the past 20 years if it wasn't for this man I'm going to mention. He did leave us for Indianapolis. It's Adam Vinatieri. He kicked not 1, but 2 up the uprights in the closing seconds. That wasn't overtime against the Rams and Panthers, respectively. It all started with the greatest show on turf, as you couldn't bet legally, otherwise going to Vegas at that time. But Adam Vinatieri kicked the upright with the great John Madden said that they should just take a knee and go for overtime. And Tom Brady and Belichick, their first year, they weren't legends at that time. They were after that, and I said, no way. As Adam Vinatieri kicked it up the uprights to defeat one of the greatest regular season teams in NFL history, the greatest show on turf with Marshall Faulk, Kurt Warner, Torrey Holt, Isaac Bruce, and the St. Louis Rams at that time before they went to St. Louis. But before I go over my mock draft results, I'll check the comment section real quick. Rick Keller, a host of our New York show. Vinatieri needs to be in before Edelman. You can't have a second dynasty without the first one. I completely agree with you, Ricky. It is very true for what I mentioned. And you can't forget the Snow Bowl before the Super Bowl. His Snow Bowl field goal against Oakland, now they're the Vegas Raiders, was probably a top 5 moment. It definitely was for me. As back then, before everyone panicked when you got 2 inches of snow and they go to my work, oh, I got to get the bread, I got to get the milk. We were at my dad's friend's house at the time. I was like probably not even 10. And there was like over a foot of snow, and people made it to not Gillette Stadium at the time. It was just finished being built, of the old Foxborough Stadium where people there were benches at the time. It was such a crapshoot. It was, thank God it doesn't exist anymore. But it did finally have one good memory, and that was that Snow Bowl against one of the first NFL primetime playoff games on CBS in history was against the Oakland Raiders at the time before they moved to Vegas. You got Rich Gannon as their quarterback. You had the legendary receiver who couldn't really do much that night. You had Jerry Rice, a former great San Francisco 49er, one of his final seasons. He wanted to go out with a ring. But even then, since the Pats had an 11-5 record, they were the underdogs against Oakland. But anyways, I do take Vinatieri this year over Edelman. Sorry, Jules, but you got your Games and Names podcast, and dudes on dudes, you should understand. You are a phenomenal player, one of my top 5 favorite players of all time. But there is no dynasty without Adam Vinatieri right there. And even the Colts fans would agree, as he played with Peyton Manning, as we thought it was an ultimate heel turn at the time, just like John Cena did to the fans a month ago. But anyways, I respect Vinatieri. We wouldn't be here without him. But let's get into business, the moment you've been waiting for. My Abdul Qadir mock draft, shall we? In order for this to happen, Cam Ward went first overall. And believe it or not, which is rumored now, Travis Hunter, the Heisman winner of Colorado, went to the Cleveland Browns at 2 in this. And Shador Sanders went number 3. So I was able to scoop Abdul Qadir, which no matter what, I just think whether I'd rather him or Hunter, I'll answer that next week. But you got to take them if they're right on your lap. You got to take one of them. But I am looking forward to reading my mock draft to you all as he is an edge of Penn State. Mike Vrabel did make some good signings, including getting Milton Williams from the Super Bowl winning Philadelphia Eagles, who sacked Mahomes twice. My next pick was 49th, Wyatt Mulum, an offensive guard for the Patriots. But then I made a trade in the 3rd round with, I believe, was Cincinnati for a 2nd round pick next year. I traded my 69th overall pick, but I didn't have a pick till number 77 overall. And this is a guy who's made it in both of my mock drafts. I don't know how I did it. Harold Fannin Jr., the tight end of Bowling Green, as Tyler Warren is one of the best top prospects from Penn State, the similar team that Abdul Qadir is on. But the tight end of Bowling Green is one of our picks that made it all 3. Watch the Patriots draft this guy, as we need a good tight end to recreate the Gronk and Hernandez before he went with his mental deeds and didn't end up very good. Let's hope we get something like that with the tight ends, as we got Austin Hooper re-signed for the Patriots, who didn't do that bad this year. He was one of the very few that had multiple touchdown passes on the team. And you have Hunter Henry, who was really good for the Los Angeles Chargers. He's been here the past few years. He's always a decent wide receiver when he's a tight end, but he blocks more. You can have more on the block. You can go a double tight end formation, and this is where Harold Fannin Jr. is for. And he'll make the team, obviously. He could even be 3rd string and learn for a little bit. And we got one of our ComEd colleges that we're going to cover a lot for football this year, offensive tackle of Boston College, Ozzie Trapilo. I went with 2 offensive linemen in my 4 picks, I believe, because it is real. One's a guard, one's a tackle. Even though if we don't end up getting Will Campbell, we really need to protect Drake May and Ramondre Stevenson. Or we could get Genty in the draft, but I think the Raiders or the Bears are going to trade up to get him. In my next round at 144 overall, I get the running back from Virginia Tech to go with either Gibson or Stevenson by Shul Tutin of Virginia Tech, who was pretty good this year. He's a slot back that we kind of need if we do add another running back, because Stevenson's more of a ground and pound rusher. And if we have a great offensive line, they can protect him easily. We signed Morgan Moses from the Jets. That should help us. And I finally drafted a receiver after this, but it was at 220 overall. I had a few 5th round picks. I went with Jamaray Cardwell, the defensive tackle of Oregon, because Vrabel loves his defense. Even though we have Milton Williams, it's still, and Christian Barrymore coming back, we still need extra defensive depth, and that's why I think Vrabel's going for. And at 238, we got Antoine Willis Jr., wide receiver of Ole Miss, and a competitive school like an SEC. Obviously, LSU's known for guys like Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase, and now Malik Neighbors on the Giants. This guy would be a great slot to have. As we got Kendrick Bourne before we signed Stephon Diggs. We got Kendrick Bourne, who thrived really well in McDaniel's for the offense before he left for a head coaching job with the Raiders, which didn't work out. Kendrick Bourne did decently before he got hurt, but we got 2 LSU receivers, Kayshon Boutte and Pop Douglas. Pop Douglas is probably going to be our number 2 wideout and give those guys an opportunity. You also got Javon Baker and Javin Polk. Both of them should have better years as they want to prove themselves, but doesn't hurt to have extra receiver depth. That's why I went with them. And my last pick is Kobe King, linebacker of Penn State, also another Abdul Qadir teammate, which would make very good for us because we could always add more linebacker depth, kind of like what Teddy Bruschi used to be for us. He was beloved as a Patriot, and he's an analyst now, trying to recreate that defense, because defense does win championships, especially when you got Josh Allen running all over defenders in the in the AFC East. It's still the Bills division. It's kind of like what I said about what we're going to talk about next with the Red Sox. This is still a New York team's division. This is still the Buffalo Bills division. We finally signed guys after the outrage of the past 2 years, disastrous 4-win seasons back-to-back, as it is very important that we do cover those teams. And the Red Sox we're going to talk about next. But that's enough for today about the Patriots. We're going to have a special draft episode next week. I cannot wait to tell you what I think they should do. But I want to keep you guys suspense and enthusiastic like me about what I'm going to say, because I was able to drive the NFL for so long. The draft's been talking about since December, so it's time to get this over with next Thursday, as I cannot wait to talk about this. And now we're going to move on to a team that's been disastrous for us with high expectations so far. It is our Boston Red Sox. As of things stand right now, the New York Yankees are 9-7 in the AL East first place. Toronto is 8-9. Second place, third place is the Rays, 8-8. We're fourth place, 8-10. And last place is the Orioles at 6-9, which shocks me and a lot of people, because right now, our Red Sox bats are doing atrocious. After all the money we spend and we kind of knew Rafael Devers was going to struggle a little bit. We all knew that coming into spring training, as he didn't want to play first base or designated hitter. As speaking of first base, Tristan Casas is struggling dramatically, not playing in all games as backup for infielder. Romy Gonzalez has been getting a few starts for us, but we lost 2 out of 3 to the Chicago White Sox. How on earth does this happen with one of the highest expectations since we made the ALCS the year after the pandemic? How does this happen, folks? But let's go in the comment section. And Rick Keller said, the American League is just, for lack of what a blur, bleh. It's easy for you to say because the Yankees had Aaron Judge, Volpe, and Goldschmidt at the helm, smacking bats everywhere. As the Yankees, as much as we in Boston hate the Yankees, they are a phenomenal team, and I respect the hell out of them because they made it to the World Series last year. The NL is where it's at, but even the Braves are struggling right now. Who would have thought they'd start like 0-7 to start the year? That is with Acuna there. It is, I don't understand that, because obviously the Dodgers are tied for first, but you got the San Diego Padres hopping aboard, as everyone thought they were going to have a breakout season last year when they had Soto years ago, and they got one of our beloved shortstops, Xander Bogaerts, who I miss so much, just like we all miss Mookie Betts, as he won a World Series with the Dodgers with Ohtani in the game, and the Hernandezes. We are going to talk about our team. The Sox obviously have struggled recently as Winter Temporary came back to Fenway last week, and they lost 2 out of 3 against the Toronto Blue Jays, including Garrett Crochet having a great first 5 innings of that game. Then the batters, George Springer leading the league in batting average, and it is very chilly as the batters went back to how they were on the opening series to the Rangers minus opening day, rather than the exploding performance against the St. Louis Cardinals that got me to have the Red Sox win our 3-way race with the Bruins and Celtics, the main event of my 7th show last week. They are not looking like a main event caliber team like they had so much buzz the first few weeks, but they had a walk-off to avoid getting swept by the Toronto Blue Jays. When seeding Rafaela got an infield single to get a sacrificial out in the 10th inning, then they traveled to the worst run franchise outside of the Athletics now since they moved to another city. I can't say that. In all MLB, the Chicago White Sox, it's crazy. Since then, the Cubs have been slugging the ball with Ian Nepp, as the Cubs have been leading the whole National League in batting average and hitting average. But the other Chicago, we made them look like they could go easily with that, as they won 2 of our 3 games, including getting 11 runs against us with Newcomb, who doesn't belong on our starting pitching right now, who is very young. He has time to improve. But until we get Crawford and Bello back, we need to start the batters to step up. But they haven't done so, especially during even the game where we won on Sunday, where Crochet pitched against his former team, the former American League Comeback Player of the Year, after signing that monstrous contract a few weeks ago. But let's look at how our batters were struggling. You have left fielder Justin Duran going 1 for 10, only playing in 2 games. Rafael Devers is another slump. 0 and 10 in those games. Third baseman Alex Bregman is 3 for 10 with 1 run. And first baseman Tristan Casas is 2 for 7 with 2 games played, but he did get a few hits. But one of the star hitters right now on this team who's been only consistent right now is shortstop and very injury-prone player Trevor Story. Went 6 for 12. He got a double and a monstrous home run to get some guys off during the third game of the series, which gave Crochet the win. You got right fielder William Abreu, who went 3 and 9 and got a run off the walk. He hasn't been as star-studded like we all thought he was during opening day when he hit 2 home runs. You got second baseman, former minor league player of the year, rookie sensation, Christian Campbell going 3 for 11. And Connor Juan's been injured, but even if he wasn't injured, our catchers are really good at catching. But this team it's not due to the catchers, is leading the league with 20 errors so far on this season. You got Brandon Sable getting called up. He's been 0 for 3, haven't been able to get a hit. You got Carlos Navarez, who's showing signs of improvement on the bat, going 1 for 8 with a sack RBI. At least he did something, right? And you got Cedin Rafael with the cleanup spot, going 3 for 11. He was one of our only batters during the cold weather against Toronto last week, taking on Vladimir Guerrero in the game. He had a hit, including an RBI in that. But you got backup infielder who either subs for Durand or Abreu. Rob Reitfielder had 1 RBI, and he's a backup who doesn't play in all the games, 1 through 10 with 1 RBI, folks. It is going to be a long season, but I do believe the Red Sox can turn this team around right now. And Rick Keller said the starting pitching is the worst in baseball, if that helps. Oh, that helps tremendously, buddy. Helps very tremendously, as by the end of Sunday, we were able to have a celebration shake as one of the new concession stands to come out of Kaminsky Park with the new items they have. With which speaking of the White Sox, we are going to play them again in a 4-game series this weekend after we played the Brandon Lowe and the Tampa Bay Rays, who shellacked 15 runs against us last week. Against Tanner Hoke in the game, and Chapman hasn't been good, even though I gave him play of the week last week because he didn't give up an earned run for 2 weeks up to that point. But our relieving is getting better. Whitlock's showing signs of improvement, striking out a few guys here and there. But we need our batters. They're supposed to be a heart of our team. Our bullpen's supposed to be struggling for us. Not all our starting pitchers and our batters. But Tanner Hoke, I knew was going to have a terrible year coming in. Even though he did strike out 5, he gave up, 10 earned runs yesterday against the Rays? Boy, he needs to improve. As we take on the Chicago White Sox, including our annual Marathon Monday game at 11 a.m. due to the marathon taking place. Speaking of that, we are going to go over the results of the marathon next week, folks. So tune in. We are going to have, which I hope to make a yearly tradition, as next year I won't be away. So I hope to be at the finish line in future years. But we are going to cover that. It's amazing what these runners train for. And a charity of this choice, they have to raise like $10K to run. But we are going to cover the marathon next week. And we also, after the marathon, we are still at home for a 3-game series against the leading slugger and one of the best hitters in the AL West, Julio Rodriguez, who's been struggling as of late. And you've got one of the great catchers who can hit, Cal Raleigh, coming to Boston from Seattle. Everyone thought they would take the big leap last year, even though they made a playoff appearance a few years ago. You can't underestimate this team, as let's hope the Sox go at least 4-3 in this homestand when I cover them again next week. But before we take our commercial break and go to the co-headline in the main event of the evening, we are going to talk about our ComAv colleges, as some of our baseball teams are looking phenomenal. We got our ComAv baseball and softball check-in, as we got our Boston College Eagles, who is 17-18 right now, and 7-11 in the ACC with the likes of Duke, North Carolina, and all of them. Let's get a Slurpee since they have a 7-11 division record, shall we? BC just had a 3-game series with the Notre Dame Fighting Irish, which started off with a 2-0 loss, but then channeled their inner clutch as game 2. They were down 5-0 against the Irish as one of their star ballers, Patrick Roach, hit a 2-run double to make it a tie game. Then Colin Larson hits a double to make the comeback alive as BC won with 6 unanswered runs, 6-5. Then they wear these nice Marathon Monday jerseys, kind of like what the Red Sox do, which is an odd change from the maroon and gold overhaul athletic teams. Brady Miller came in relief in Game 3 and made 3 strikeouts to give the Eagles no additional run damage as Gunnar Johnson has hit a clutch home run to win the series versus the Fighting Irish as they look to build momentum and get a surprise boost in time for the ACC tourney, as that's going to be starting in a few weeks. Our Northeastern Huskies are doing really well this year. One of the top teams in the nation, especially for a small conference like the CAA, the Coastal Athletic Association. They are 25-9 for the year and 10-2 in the CAA. The Huskies are looking amazing as they swept Hofstra, including a doubleheader this past Friday after the rainout did rain a lot of these teams' games this past week. After that, they defeated the other Huskies in Southern New England, UConn. Max Glitton had amazing games of 8.1 innings shutout as he leads the NCAA in 9 shutouts for a New England team. That's amazing. And had over 8 strikeouts in his outing versus the Huskies. The pitching is amazing for Northeastern as they had 8 relievers combining for a .33 ERA and 29 strikeouts combined against Hofstra. But don't forget about their bats, though, is Cam Malando leads the Huskies in slugging percentage with 1.175 as Northeastern looks to make a dent in the regular season and make a surprise run in the NCAA College World Series tournament. And we got a team who hasn't been doing too great this year, the Harvard Crimson. They're 5-21, 3-8 in the Ivy League. They got an up-and-coming 3-game series versus the Cornell Red, but they have been struggling all year. They recently had a doubleheader with Princeton, with both games were split with a differential of 1 each, as William Rybrook went 3 for 3, including a critical RBI in the 3rd inning with Paulie Truman nearly getting a no-hitter. It also helped that the Crimson out-hit the Princeton Tigers 9-2 as Paulie Truman had a season-high 12 strikeouts as the Crimson looked to end the season a few weeks on the high note. As we're going to move on to our ladies softball with the BC Eagles. They're 18-21. They've been doing pretty good in a non-conference, but the ACC play, they're 4-11. They've been struggling as of late, losing a series 2 out of 3 to the Louisville Cardinals. Despite the 2 losses, leading hitter Jordan Stevens had a career-high 6 RBI game in the 14-13 loss to the Cardinals, while Kelly Coran had 66 strikeouts for the year, with Bailey Kendorski getting one more, 67 strikeouts for the year as their pitching's been really good. They have a 3-game road trip coming up against the Clemson Tigers to try and get some conference wins to boost the momentum for the ACC tournament. And we got another softball team, the Harvard Crimson. They make up for it, unlike the men's. They're 17-8, 6-4 in the Ivy League. But they only played 1 game this past week since we covered them due to our crappy weather, as most games were rained out. But they defeated our rival Yale 6-5. As like the baseball team of BC being down 5-1, the Crimson with their arch rival Yale taking the cake. Both of these games gone extra innings in this season. As Maya Douglas, the first base player, drove in 3 RBIs, including Sophie Sung and Alexa Mueller, and then Savannah Fitzpatrick hit a solo home run that tied the game at 5 apiece, her first of the year to tie it up. Then Perina Cool hit the game-winning RBI for her 20th team-leading RBI to a 6-5 victory as they have a series against Brown. And a one-off with our other ComAv team, which we're going to talk about now, BU, as they look to boost their Ivy League divisional record beforehand. BU is undefeated in division play, 9-0 in the Patriot League, 26-13 for the year. They had a 26-win record, but is on a 2-game skid with losses to Kentucky back-to-back. But they have many games coming up before we go on the air next week. As Kylie Dorothy got a few RBIs to make the Kentucky game go to extra innings to bring up the lead total of 37 RBI for BU and is tied with Megan Coyle for the RBI leads. The Lady Terriers have a ton of games coming up as they have a doubleheader with Stonehill and the 3-game series versus Army this weekend with a matchup with our other fall ComAv College, Harvard. That's enough of baseball for the night, as we are going to take a commercial break, folks, as we are going to move on to our main event and co-headliner. Men's hockey is ending in New England as the Bruins wrap up their season tonight. And how did BU fare in their tournament? Don't miss the exciting thriller end of my episode coming up next with some big announcements, too, on the show. Don't go anywhere.
What's up, everybody? This is Darren Rodriguez. Are you a fan of volleyball? Are you a fan of Thunderous Spikes? Then I have the show for you, Set Point, where I cover NCAA men's and women's volleyball, high school boys and girls volleyball, beach volleyball, and even professional volleyball. Catch the action every week here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
Hello, ladies and sinners. Hello, sports fans around the world. Hello, IE Sports family. This is Cale Henderson, the host of IE Vegas, the Sin City Sports Show, presented by IE Sports Radio. If you folks are interested in sports in the Vegas area, if you're wanting to have a blast for 1 hour, every Tuesday night from 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time to 8 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, this is a show built for the Vegas sports fans, where we feature the Las Vegas Raiders, the Las Vegas Golden Knights, the Las Vegas Aces, and the University of Las Vegas, Nevada Rebels. Hopefully, fingers crossed, MLB team coming soon. Either way, if you folks are looking to have a blast for 1 hour each and every week, tune in Tuesday, 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time to 8 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. If you folks are interested in Vegas sports news, go to our Twitter, at SinCities_IESR, and you can speak with me, the host, Cale Henderson, at Cale_Henderson on Twitter, at any time. Be happy to reply. Always want to reach out to our fans. Again, the Sin City Sports Show, presented by IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
All right, folks, there's a big reason I've had those two commercials there. As Taryn Rodriguez is our soldier for IE Sports Radio, he always makes an effort to check on everyone's show, check on how everyone's doing. Thank you, Taryn, for that, as he commented earlier. And this next one's a big one. Sin City Sports, led by Cale Henderson, who is every Tuesday to lead the nightcap of great shows, whether it's Angela and her husband Fred, the Tornado Oklahoma show that they cover all Oklahoma teams and pop culture event. That's on 8 o'clock. And you got two phenomenal shows covering national sport. You got Adam Karnick, the host of our Chi-Town Weekly, who's probably been very happy with how the Cubs and White Sox are playing. Runs our Neutral Zone, our hockey program, as NHL playoffs are coming soon. Unfortunately, we will not be part of it this year. But you also got Cale Henderson of the Sin City Sports. This is very big, as your boy BMAdawg is going to Las Vegas for WrestleMania 41. As next week, not only are we going to have marathon coverage, we are gonna cover one match featuring a Massachusetts native on this show, the main event. John Cena, who turned heel and betrayed his fan, take off the man who's been carrying all of professional wrestling since he went to AEW and went back to WWE, taking it by storm. The American Nightmare, Cody Rhodes, Whoa, as they take on in the main event, and we will cover that match. And I will be on the wrestling show next Thursday, right after I come home. We are going to have our normal show on Wednesday at 7 p.m., hopefully. If not, we'll do it Thursday morning if something comes up. And then I'll be a guest host with P. Dizzle in the game at our IE Sports Wrestling show going over WrestleMania. So you have to come there to find out more about my trip. But before we get into our main event and co-headline of the evening, in 2 weeks' time, obviously while the marathon and that one match coverage taking spot as show, we are going to start to cover the Boston Fleet as the women's tournament of the Nationals, whether it's U.S., Canada, is getting a PWHL break. So April 28th, they play again. We are going to cover the Boston Fleet, a phenomenal women's team playing in Lowell. We will cover them more in 2 weeks' time, as well as our end of the year, going over the best moments of Hockey East and our sad moment timeline of the Bruins, as the team looked a lot different than October, whether it's players or coaching. But let's get into our co-headliner. How did one of our great ComAv colleges do? You have Boston University Terriers in their national championship Frozen Four games. They take on Penn State first before we talk about their national title game, which they were victorious. Coming into this game, BU won their Toledo section, defeating the Ohio State University 8-3, and the sectional final defeating Cornell 3-2 in overtime. Penn State shocked everyone as they upset the top two teams that face each other at TD Garden for the Hockey's finals, which was the top seeded Maine Black Bears, and Tyler McCarr, who was the brother of 2023 Cup winner of the Colorado Avalanche, Cole McCarr, in a lopsided affair. Then they took on the UConn Huskies, who have won countless NBA basketball titles for both genders in an overtime thriller to get to the school's first Frozen Four appearance in history when Penn State did defeat UConn, in case anyone was confused. This game started off scoreless with an intense forechecking from both teams with no penalties apiece, and both goaltenders, Yegorov and Sergeyev Erzanti, had 7 and 11 saves each. What a big gulp for both fan bases. Then the second period started right up with a Matt Capone missed shot. And who got the rebound? The senior Westwood native, Jack Hughes, to put the Terriers up one, who went across the street on the portal to wall-to-wall from ComAv from Northeastern. Captain Shane LaChance, who had 3 different goal-scoring opportunities, but some missed net wide left. The Terriers got their first penalty of the night with defenseman Sasha Budamain getting a trip and minor with 5:55 in the second, but BU finally killed a penalty. Their Achilles heel all season long was getting a ton of penalty minutes. It also helped that Penn State also got a tripping call with the halfway point of the second period. We got a freshman uniquely designed 2-on-1, the Cole freshman connection, as Cole Eiserman to Cole Hudson with the rookie sensation passing a beautiful one-timer from Devin Kaplan to Cole Eiserman, who's been drafted by the New York Islanders. Which a Devin Kaplan steal started this masterpiece right up. Then the 4-on-4 second period ends with BU up by 2. It's worth noting that Penn State was winless this year when not down by 2+ goals. As BU is nearly perfect with a 16-2 record. BU had 3 Hockey East Rookies of the Year this year in a row, with Matthew Celebrini, who a few years prior is now on the San Jose Sharks. And last year, Lane Hudson, the older brother of both Cole and Quinn Hudson, is on one of our most hated teams, the Montreal Canadiens, most likely going to clinch a playoff berth. But BU killed 2 penalties to end the second, while BU was trailing in the faceoffs with Ryan Green and Shane LaChance going less than 50% with the faceoffs. The back checking made up for it, with BU winning a ton of battles thanks to Quinn Hudson and Gavin McCarthy. It was another confidence boosted for the Terriers when Cole Eiserman scores a goal. They are 12-3-1 this season, which is great news, but Penn State has had enough, and they turn on their gas pedals as they got a goal at the beginning of the third period on their 17th shot on goal. As the third period, the Terriers seem to have lost control as the inexperience of the Nittany Lions benefited BU in the first 2 periods. The goal scorer for Penn State was Nicholas DeGraves. LaChance tried to set up a one-timer to Hughes, but got deflected. BU got a penalty with too many men on the ice call during the third period. Penn State was out shooting a 7-2. They have not been given up any power play goals in their last 22 non-divisional games. Obviously, they struggled in Big Ten this year. That's why they were seeded so low, as Capone missed a potential one-timer to LaChance 9 minutes into the third. Cole Hudson had 4 blocks in the night at a career high. Ryan Green accidentally chips the puck on the bench, and Jack Harvey steals the puck from Penn State to get his empty net goal, the 11th goal of the year, to give the Terriers the 3rd goal and their 33rd shot of the evening. This leads BU to their first national title game since 2015. If you count our other Commonwealth College and their arch nemesis, the Boston College Eagles, who lost to Denver last year like BU did in national title, you had back-to-back national title appearances in the city of Boston, one college, one university, as they take on Western Michigan, who destroyed Denver in not one but 2 overtimes, which delayed the game of the Penn State and BU game on Thursday night on ESPN2. This hype game started after Western Michigan won, as they take on the former Bruins player, Mike Knubel's son Cam, who was skating for the Broncos. This game started with an icing. Less than 2 minutes, the Broncos scored when Ugorov didn't see the puck, when Wyatt Shingoff scored on the Western Michigan first shot of the game, when the Broncos used up the forechecking, and BU had an amazing deflection blocking in the zone that prevented the goal. But a minute later, when crashing the net, Kaplan and others were overcoming aggressiveness, and the freshman phenom scored during a tug of war when he thought for the puck and nailed it in the tying game at 1. Then Quinn Hudson got the penalty, and BU was on the PK, which during this tourney, they killed 11 out of 2 power plays. Ugorov did make some 6 saves to end of the period. Eiserman got his 4th for the regional when Western Michigan scored. BU scored earlier with the forecheck to give them a 2-1 lead, ending the period, as BU may have outblocked them 7-2 in the first, but they got outshot by 9-8. And then BU got outshot 4-1 when Cam Knubel misses a backhand off the rebound. But Ty Henrik scores anyway, giving BU the 3-1 deficit against Western Michigan. Capone had a few turnovers in the beginning of the second, and Sasha Budamain had a nice slap shot that hit the post with 11:09 to go. BU got what it's like, a winning lotto ticket to them, a power play opportunity, which they are first in Hockey East and 4th at the nation, and cashing in with 28% on the year. In a must-score, do-or-die situation, the Terriers cashed in with captain-to-captain connection, similar to the cold-to-cold connection against Penn State, which Ryan Green created a nice pass around to Shane LaChance, scoring for the Terriers to make them down only 3-2. LaChance is the 3rd family member to play for his family on BU. His grandfather, Jack Parker, and his father as well. BU is 4-0 all-time versus Western Michigan coming to this game. This is also the first time in 16 years 2 freshmen was starting over each other. Then Devin Kaplan got a nice and nasty elbow, which was a penalty. The last 16 to score 3 or more goals, which is bad news for BU, has won the national championship. BU has to get over the blue neutral zone to overcome Western Michigan to win, as they were out-skating and out-physically handed in the 3rd period, as Mikhail Ugorov was awesome in this tournament, but he let in some really easy goals to make the deficit bigger for BU, as Cole Hudson and Cole Eiserman had 3 one-time opportunities towards the end of the 3rd period. When Owen Michaels of Western Michigan turned over to the Hudson turnover from the Hudson Browns, capitalize it, create a 2-on-1 opportunity to get a 5-2 lead for Western Michigan. But that's all they wrote, as once again a New England team did not take home the national championship like BC last year. BU suffers the same fate as well, and a lot of players signed with NHL deals. Congratulations to them. As I know, Quinn Hudson, Cole's older brother, signed with the Oilers, I believe, and Ryan Green signed with the Blackhawks. Congratulations to them. As before we get on to a main event of the evening, as we say goodbye to the Boston Bruins, as they are eliminated from playoff contention. Surprisingly, they weren't eliminated months ago, as they were one of the worst performed teams of the 4 nations face-off. But we are going to end this show with a bang, saying goodbye to the Boston Bruins, as this is my final recap of the year of the Bruins, and what a disastrous season, as we lost 5-2 to the Chicago Blackhawks, and we beat Pittsburgh 4-1, which too little too late, guys. They were 33-39-9, and a ton of new players came in. We got a lot of young players. We got Jacob Blacko back from one of our trades. We got Fabian Lysell, who was playing for Providence for a few years. He got his first goal earlier. As take away the top line, the only good thing the Bruins team did this year that improved them was the signing of former Kraken player Morgan Geekie, who's been phenomenal for us. He got over 30 goals this year. You also got Pastrnak, one of the top 5 goal scorers in the country and the world in the NHL, as he's only behind Liam Drysdale, and I think Tage Thompson is behind him of Buffalo. That is pretty amazing that he's still able to perform at a high level. Take away him, we probably would have the best ping pals for a top pick. We could still get the top pick, but I think they're going to get a top 5 pick, as Buffalo finally got out of the basement and sent us to the basement. As our arch rival Montreal Canadiens with 2 games left, they only need 1 point, and they're going to get in the playoffs. It will be amazing whether Toronto's going to win the Atlantic. You got both Florida teams, the Panthers, who created this downfall for us, and the Lightning. As the past 5 years, the Stanley Cup's been won by a Florida team. Who would have thought that if you talked about that 20 years ago? Which, even though they don't have Steven Stamkos in Tampa, they got Kucherov, who's been amazing, and they got a lot of play. I'm looking forward to that Panthers Lightning series, as you got the Oilers trying to repeat, and the Golden Knights former Bruin coach Bruce Cassidy. And you got, speaking of coaches, Jim Montgomery getting fired in the game I went to against the Utah Hockey Club, formerly the Coyotes, making a deep run at the playoffs as the Blues won over 10 in a row. What a slap in the face to the Bruins fans, as Marchand did get traded from us to Florida out of all teams. People think he may come back, but there was a lot of drama. If you saw, there was breaking news about teams fighting, and a reporter on WEEI reported it, and it kind of maybe made Marchand and the other teams not want to be in Boston anymore, any of the other players. As we lost Charlie Coyle to the Colorado Avalanche, we lost Brazeau. We also don't have a top 2 defensemen, Hampus Lindholm and Charlie McAvoy, because they've been out with injuries. Charlie McAvoy in the 4 Nations face-off, which was incredible for the game of hockey, with U.S. and Canada facing each other in the finals. As the NHL playoffs are going to be exciting, despite having a lack of American power markets, as this is the first time in ever that the Penguins, Sidney Crosby in the game. Chris Kreider and the New York Rangers, who looked like they were going to repeat. They should have won the Cup last year, but lost to the Panthers in the Eastern Conference Final. They had a struggle at the beginning of the season, which led to their downfall. But none other than us, the Boston Bruins, the first time ever that those 3 teams are eliminated from the postseason. It's a sad time where, unfortunately, we're all looking forward to the season to end so the younger guys can come back next year better than ever. But are Don Sweeney and Cam Neely safe is the real question. It is a big question, folks, because I think they are. But if the Bruins are going to be like the Chicago Blackhawks, even though we lost 5-2 with them, which Ryan Donato, who we had at one time, scored 2 goals. You got a former Bruin, which we traded for in the trade deadline the year we had the most wins to lose to Game 7 of Panthers. Former Red Wing Tyler Bertuzzi, who I wish we kept. He scored a goal on us, as well as our former player, Foligno, who didn't do much here, but he got his revenge. It was a former Bruins coming out night, as they announced a few awards, too. As I'm going to get to the awards now, Morgan Geekie was the recipient of the Eddie Shore Award, given the players shows exceptional hustle and determination, as it is an amazing award because he should be our 7th player award. They probably announce it tonight. He is in my book, as I'm going to announce later, as he's been way going above and beyond. One of the only Bruins not named David Pastrnak, who's been performing well. Zaka's had on and off games. You had Parker Wotherspoon, a guy who's defenseman who's been playing for Providence the past few years. He's been getting called up to the main roster since the trade deadline. has been selected for the Johnny Boychuk Award for exceptional off-ice charitable contributions. That is really good because Boston, we are known for that. And the Eddie Shore Award was won by Morgan Geekie as well. But you got the Elizabeth Defsoon Trophy as Pasternak's been selected for his outstanding performance on home ice this morning. Through 39 games at TD Garden this season, he has totaled 24 goals and 28 assists for 52 points, including a plus 17 rating on the ice. He also leads the Bruins in goals, assists, points with even strength goals at 20 and 42 respectively. He has had 157 shots this year. It's his second consecutive year in the fourth season that he has won this trophy, dating back to 2020. As I do agree with that, but Morgan Geekie has been phenomenal for us, even though Jeremy Swayman got recognized as well, but he has had an off year ever since he held out. They had to trade Linus Ullmark to the Senators, who are going to be playing the Austin Matthews, Mitch Marner, and the Toronto Maple Leafs in the first round, because that is going to be a big deal, folks, because can the Maple Leafs choke again like they do in the first? I am personally going to root for them, even though the Canadians are going to play the Capitals. Alex Ovechkin, congratulations to him on breaking the great one, Wayne Gretzky's record with goals. Well-deserved. The Capitals, I'm going to root heavily. Well, the Oilers I'm going to be rooting for this year. We'll provide updates on former Bruins as we go on. We won't be talking about hockey next week due to our 2 one-offs with the Marathon Monday and John Cena and WrestleMania. We're going to cover that as I'll be there. But next week, we will have our end-of-the-year review with the Bruins and our CONMAV Hockey East colleges. Bentley making it to the first round, losing to BC. You got BU making it to the national title game. And Harvard doing decent in ECAC, even though they didn't make the tournament, which is very thin. And Northeastern, their goalie was phenomenal for that team, but they lost some close games all year. As we'll do a Hockey East and Bruins coverage in a few weeks to go over the highs and lows of the season. There wasn't many highs for the Bruins this year, as it was a sad season seeing Brendan Carlo, Charlie Coyle, and Brad Marchand, our no-face killer, leave us, just like Patrice Bergeron went out with a Game 7 loss against the Panthers a few years ago. At least it was no fluke, since the Panthers are really good now with Matthew Tkachuk should be coming back to the playoffs. You got Sam Bennett leading that team. So I'm interested. The Stanley Cup playoffs should still be good. But I will be watching my reigning, defending NBA champion Boston Celtics kick some ass this year and look for a repeat, as that's all we're going to get now for the Bruins, since they did take on Sidney Crosby. Before I move on to my play of the week, they did play Sidney Crosby and the Pittsburgh Penguins. Is that team owned by John Henry? 2 black and gold teams, Bruins and Penguins. Who would have thought they'd be playing mid-April with nothing to play for? It is amazing. They're missing the playoffs too, and it's sad all around, as we're going to have to get used to smaller teams making the playoffs that don't usually do. But now it's time for my BMAdawg Player of the Week. Who's going to take it? It is a guy who's way overdue for my play of the week. It's no surprise to you as you watch my main eventer. It is a Bruin, and it is Morgan Geekie, who had 30-plus goals this season. He is a phenomenal talent. I hope they keep him. And believe it or not, he dropped his NHL badge at my work, and I have my autograph stick that I will show you in a future episode. It even has Brad Marchand's name, Charlie Coyle's name, Brazeau. It had guys like Wotherspoon signing it. Also had Pavel Zacha signing the stick. As I look to show it in the future episode next year, I'll show it, as I hope they re-sign him, and hopefully we can have him, or Tuukka Rask, who shops at my work a lot. Hopefully we can have them come on the show next year. I wanted to wait because I knew this year was a lost cause, and thank you, Morgan Geekie, for that. You are well-deserved for my play of the week, joining Bruin David Pastrnak and Jeremy Swayman for his post-trade deadline performance when the Bruins played 2 games after that episode. That the play of the week, even though you could have had any Celtic win it from the bench, they got all month to main event and potentially competing for the player of the week. Garrett Crochet had a phenomenal game for the Red Sox against his former team, but the batters cool off to give any Sox a play of the week. As we are going to say goodbye, folks, we have an action-packed episode coming next week, as I would like to congratulate Morgan Geekie. But before I sign off, I would like to thank you all for switching days with me, as we will be back next week. As next week, we got the biggest moment you've been waiting for. Who do I think the Patriots should take at 4th overall? We are going to go over Marathon Monday. Let's hope the Red Sox can pull up some wins against the White Sox or Mariners in a long homestand. Let's hope our reigning defending champion will be up at least one game as we come back next week in the NBA playoff. And we are going to go over John Cena versus Cody Rhodes. I will be at the grandest stage of them all, WrestleMania, as I look forward to covering that one match with you all for the first time ever. And we are going to have in 2 weeks, we are going to have the Boston Fleet being covered, and we're going to have a hockey review. So thank you so much for my 8th episode. Good night, all. Thank you, Boston, and have a great night, folks. Ooh!